Welcome to the Teacher Thoughts Podcast. I'm your host, Abby Hernandez. Teacher thoughts can be groundbreaking. Teacher thoughts can be tiring. And the good news is, teacher thoughts can be changed. I don't claim to be a mental health expert. I'm just an educator, and I'll be using this space to synthesize what I have learned from my self-help research in a way that will help you. Welcome back to episode 9. So glad you're with me today. This episode is going to be a little bit shorter, and I wanted to start off by saying thank you for sticking with me. When I was in elementary school, I had a teacher named Miss Freeman who would put us up at the front of the room, and we had to take some object. It would be something random like a battery or a paper clip, and no one else in the class could see that object, and we had to hold it behind our back, and we had to describe that object to the class without using the words like, or any other type of filler. And I realized going back and listening to my podcast episodes that I probably need to practice that lesson again because I do use some filler words sometimes. But you guys have been so patient with me. So thank you for listening past all of that and trying to really get the value. So this week for me has been a total doozy. And when I say doozy, I mean, oh my goodness, it's been challenging. At school, it just seems like my to-do list is growing and I keep working long hours, and it just has not been keeping up with my expectations for this week's podcast about time blocking. So in the last episode, I believe around the end, I said something about trying out some time blocking and talking to you about it this week. And I really haven't made it all the way through that. I also had an observation today, actually, and my students were not on their best behavior, even though I sort of pre-gamed. I knew it was coming. I talked to them about it, but this is my class. In the afternoon, it was about 1:30, and they were so ready to go home. So they just weren't doing everything that I hoped they would. So it's really testing me to put everything I'm talking to you about the podcast and apply it to my own life and apply it to myself. So the first thing my brain has defaulted to this week is all of the default settings that my brain has had, which would be to say, why are you even trying to do a podcast? Obviously, you can't do all of these things. Everything is still too hard. It's too overwhelming, blah, blah, blah. And my brain has just really tried to get me back into that pattern of thinking that who am I to be telling you guys or giving you advice or trying to help make your lives better when, it's been a major struggle. But when I really step back and take a look at the lessons that I've been talking to you about, the different thought processes that I've been explaining on the podcast, when I allow myself to feel those raw, fresh emotions from what has been a lot of things that have been going on that are real life as a teacher, and I process through those things, at the end of the day, I'm not wanting to run away from the profession. I am wanting to still find positive solutions. I spent all day pretty embarrassed by my observation, but now I'm ready to move on and implement some new strategies to help my students become more independent and just moving on to the next step. So doing the things that I talk about in this podcast won't give you a superhuman experience in life. We're still going to get those emotions. We're still going to get stressed out. We're still going to complain. I mean, you guys should just send me some cheese for all of my whining I've been having going on this week. I know that's super corny, But really, I have been whining. My poor team, my poor family has been dealing with me. But on the inside, if people could look on the inside, at the end of the day, doing this thought work has majorly changed how I feel. I can gladly say, talking to you right now, I'm going to go to bed at peace, even though I had a crazy day, because I've allowed myself to feel those negative emotions. I have processed those negative emotions, and now they're not going to be lingering over me. They're not going to be hanging there. I still have a bag full of papers next to me. I still have an email full of tasks to complete, but I will get to work on it tomorrow, and everything is going to be okay. So this whole week has helped me to think up the concept of 2 steps forward and 1 step back. So there's this saying that goes, I take 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And if you look at that over a long course of time, if you kind of zoom out on your life and imagine every time you try something new, or every time you work on your professional development or personal development, you always take 1 step forward, but then you take 2 steps back. That thought is convincing yourself that you're not good enough, you'll never be able to do it, and any progress just isn't worth it because you always have more regression than you do progress. So in my life, I've tried to shift that by 1 little step in the opposite direction. So if you think about, you can continue trying to do things differently in your life, retraining your brain, going after things you love, pursuing your passions, setting ambitious goals, and taking massive action, and still failing, and still working towards those goals because you know that you've taken 2 steps forward before you've taken that 1 step back, and that you can continue taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back and making steady, maybe you're not taking super fast sprints towards your goals, right? But as long as you're moving in that direction and your net result would be a positive one, something that goes towards your values, towards your goals for your life, then you're going to be better off than you were when you started. So this week, I would like to encourage you to focus not on how awful your steps backward are, or not on how difficult life is, but how you're still taking steps forward, my friend. You are doing your best today to make and choose thoughts that serve you and your goals in this life. This has been a short episode of Teach Your Thoughts. Have a great week. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.